New tariffs on goods from China now in effect. Mexico and Canada could be next. Consumers and small businesses here in Georgia are already bracing to feel those impacts. Atlanta News First reporter Brittany Ford reports.
A lot of the peppers are grown in either Mexico or South America.
Matt Garbett, co-owner of West Corner Grocery, says he's been looking at product labels more often.
Maple syrup, that's Canadian, most of it.
He says President Trump's imposed tariffs on imports from China and potential tariffs on Mexico and Canada.
This entire shelf right here is all Canadian.
Will directly impact his business.
I guess obviously we're nervous.
Rising the cost to keep certain products on the shelves that will show at the register.
You can certainly absorb some increases, but others are going to have to be passed along to the customers.
So I think small businesses are starting to freak out a little bit, and that's rippling through the community pretty quickly.
Tom Smith, economics and finance professor at Emory University, says the tariffs will increase U.S. consumer prices and result in a loss of revenue for farmers.
The second part is when retaliatory tariffs are placed by other countries on our products, such as China put retaliatory tariffs on our pecans. Then our farmers will send fewer pecans to China or other countries, and that will hit them in the pocketbook.
Garbett says the future of their business is at stake.
It's how much of the price goes up and how much we can absorb to stay in business.
Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
And to help me talk about that economic impact, and more specifically, what impact you could see on your wallet, is Barry Spencer with Wealth with No Regrets. And Barry, good afternoon to you. What are you making of all of this?
Well, certainly anything like this is a shock in the short term. And I think when, Trump and his administration comes in, they're coming in with a wrecking ball. And I think that's definitely what's happening. And so you see it, as you just reported, right, some shock to that. However, you think about 25% of our GDP is in trade. And so we have a lot more that is happening with our country separate from that. And yet Canada depends on 70% of their economy and trade from the United States. So, looking at that, I think that, Trump usually takes on a really high pressure tactic to kind of get us back in a position of strength. And I think you're going to probably see that turn over. Now, whether it takes weeks, months, or a year, I think that would be the case. And I always think kind of as an athlete. I've been an Ironman athlete and all that over my lifetime. And so I think about through pain is gain. And I think there's some short-term pain, but on the other side is the better you, the better self, the better country. And I think that's probably what's happening. So we got to kind of endure that along the way. So.
I really appreciate you coming on here to offer your expertise. Wealth with No Regrets, of course, enabling customers and folks to be financially educated and financially prepared for moments where they can feel impacts to their wallet, like the one we will likely see with these tariffs. I want to get into the why behind this. President Trump has come out even before taking office for his second term to say tariffs were going to be a big part of his administration and his push and how he interacts with other countries. Why this strategy in addressing some of the things that he wants out of negotiations with countries like Mexico, with countries like China?
Well, our country was the strongest in the late 1800s until 1913, and our country was driven by tariffs and consumptive taxes, and we grew massively during that time. And I think he's just trying to get us back into a position of strength with countries around the world. And this kind of negotiation tactic is how he's always done it in his career and now in the White House. And it's just kind of an experiment. It's never been done quite this way in our political history from a presidential seat. So again, I think there's maybe some short-term pain in here, but I think there's some long-term gain to be had because it increases competition, increases the strength of our ability to export, and it really preserves the dollar as the world reserve currency around the world, which is ultimately, I think, what he's trying to do, as well as decrease fentanyl use in the United States, which has really hurt our labor market. And that is also a big driver of our economy. And so he's trying to get the labor and the back to work as well in the midst of this, and just a healthier American. And so there's a little bit of pain, I think, on the way, but I think there's a better future coming.
And, you know, with some of these tariffs that were implemented or spoken of, we saw, for example, Canada and Mexico reach an agreement with President Trump and the administration for a 30-day delay. Is that a signal that his strategy here is working? Is that something that the American people should feel benefits them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what you see is he's coming from the position that we are a country of strength, and again, Canada depends more on us than we do on them, and I think what you're seeing is that people are starting to wake up that Trump is very serious, but maybe not quite as radical as some of his rhetoric makes it out to be, and he's a negotiator who wants everyone to win, and actually while he wants to put America first, he also wants Canada to put themselves first, and that's just it's a shift from what has been, and so there's a little bit of a transition period happening right now with that.
Certainly, and I just want to take folks into the mindset of the average American family who is dealing with inflation, who is dealing with economic challenges, and then hearing things like these in the news, and wondering, you know, am I going to have to prepare myself or my family financially to be able to continue providing and putting food on the table? What adjustments do I have to make? Those are the conversations that we're starting to sort of see. What would your advice be, you know, as someone who is receiving this news and essentially, like we saw from our Brittany Ford, waiting to see if the grocery store prices are going to go up?
Yeah, so choose. I mean, I think you got to be a little choosier at the grocery store, right? I mean, there's certain things that you want, certain things you don't, and you're going to have to maybe be a little bit choosy as you kind of shop, and so be a discerning shopper when you look at that, and maybe just buy more American where possible for a time. And I kind of take people back to the idea that inflation is really driven more um, not by our tariffs, but by government spending. So in the midst of the tariffs, Trump is also trying to bring down the government spending, and the government spending is what has, over the last several years, driven inflation into our country. And so he's trying to turn the tide on that, and it takes a little bit of time. So be a discerning shopper and realize there's probably some better days just around the corner, and hopefully it's sooner, not later.
For some of the conversation we're hearing is the other side. You know, countries like China, Mexico, Canada, saying that they would enforce retaliatory or retaliate. They would retaliate with their own tariffs, I should say. What impact could the American consumer and the American small business owner even see from that?
Well, I think again, you know, Trump is a radical negotiator and it kind of comes across as threats. So it's not unreasonable that you would see that happening as well by the other side. He's removed the little kind of loophole where getting under the tariffs, China goods under $800 were coming over and bypassing the tariff tax. And he kind of closed that loophole. So some of these Temu goods that the young people buy, and that maybe those prices won't be quite as good on those really cheap goods, and so you're going to kind of see that. But I think in the midst of that, competition goes up, and where there's a void in the marketplace for those kind of things, I think you see other people rise up, and small businesses have an opportunity to rise up and fill that void and find their place in the market to be competitive in a pricing, to take away some of that market share that was coming in from other countries, and we can do it right here at home.
I think from a financial standpoint, as a consumer, all we can do is put ourselves in the best place to prepare for any adjustments that we might need to make with our wallets. What financial advice do you have for folks to start now in preparation for any sort of tariffs, whether they're long-term or short, that could come our way?
You know, the best place to start is really get a financial plan. Most people don't do that. I mean, most people don't even think about what is the cash flow they have coming in, whether they're working, whether they're retired, and how long can their money go, where are there places in their income and in their cash flow to have more money that they can use and utilize, and look at their assets, look at their places they can make investments, and where can they save in terms of where they put money away for the future. And so a really comprehensive financial plan, income plan, investment plan, and even tax plan would be super helpful for people to get their arms in a very specific way for their situation as these kind of things come down the line.
Barry Spencer with Wealth with No Regrets. I can't thank you enough for your financial expertise and insight, as many around the country are following along with the legislation and executive administration action that's being taken and trying their best to just prepare themselves and their families. We want to empower them as best they can with information. I know Wealth with No Regrets works to do that around the clock. If any folks wanted to connect with you for financial advice or otherwise, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, go right to our website, wealthwithnoregrets.com. In fact, you can get a scorecard and kind of score where you're at when it comes to income investing, taxes, protection, and legacy. Right there on our website, completely free. Take you about 2 minutes to kind of figure out where you stand in those areas.
Efficient and helpful. Thank you so much, Barry Spencer, again, for joining us. We're going to take you back to continuing coverage from around the nation.